Three types of commercial properties I will never buy as my first investment property. If you want to buy commercial property, then perhaps these are the three things you might also avoid. What are those three? If you want to know, just stick around. Okay, so the number one thing that I would not buy as my first commercial property is the vacant building or vacant land, because the fact that it is vacant building or land as a first commercial property, I would not buy it, because I would not get the cash flow from day one. Bank might be not be giving that enough loan that I need to purchase that property, and more importantly, the fact that it is vacant is, as a first investment property, it is too risky for me. I would not buy. I would always buy a tenanted investment as my first investment property. Even though if I started now today, I would always look for a tenanted investment property, not a vacant building. That doesn't mean that I will never buy a vacant building or vacant land. I would buy it in my fourth or fifth or sixth commercial properties. Why? Because by then I am sophisticated enough, I know what's happening. By then I know that I have a sufficient base already of other commercial property. I am willing to take more risk at that time, but not as a first commercial property. The second type of commercial properties I will not buy as part of my first commercial property investment is storage shed. Particularly in the cluster of storage shed. What do you mean by cluster of storage shed? If you see that anywhere in Australia where you will find a cluster of storages, small like 40 square meter or 50 square meter of storage shed, and there are about like 30, 40, 50 in one lot, strata title and the smaller block, and each one is being built. It could be brand new or it could be even the older storage shed. I would not buy those things as my first investment property, because this will be the cheaper one. I understand that it is tempting to buy as a first commercial property. This could be like $500,000 or $600,000 commercial property, but hey, it's not about cheap, it's also about what is the best for you, and that is not going to be best for me as my first commercial property, simply because that there are so many. So most of them, the rent that I am going to get is not enough, and also if I am getting rent, tenant is not going to sign like a 3 years or 5 years lease, because they have so many other options. Generally these will be like a month to month lease or maybe maximum 1 year lease. So there will be a lot of tenant turnover, there could be vacancy, and more importantly, because it is the smaller one, it is that the type of tenants that I am going to get is also not good. So which is the reason I would not prefer to buy this kind of. If $600,000 is my budget, I would still look something like a small shop somewhere in a well established, where there is not many shops similar, like there is no cluster of storage sheds like that. But I would not buy one of those storage shed in a cluster of somewhere. So that's something I would not buy. And the third type of commercial properties that I would not buy as my first commercial property investment is the retail shop in the middle of nowhere. So let me explain what do you mean by middle of nowhere. If you want to buy a retail shop, you want to buy where there's a high traffic, foot traffic, car traffic, everything. Think about a shopping center is a one shop. Think about a place where a strip of shops are there, and one of the retail shop that you are buying, that's fine, because if it is a well established area, that you can buy. What you should not be buying is that one retail shop in the middle of somewhere where there is no other shop. So it's generally speaking that people like as a home like a mom and dad, they started like a fish and chips or any kind of shop from their home, and then they actually convert that as a commercial land and buildings, and eventually now they want to sell this. So the problem with this kind of things, if you buy, is that in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years time, if this tenant, whoever is the current tenant, if they retire, they want to move on, then it's very, very difficult to find another tenant, because there is no other foot traffic. So perhaps they had a business model of getting people through whatever way, websites or any kind of online, but now the new business they don't know. So, and it is only one shop, so there is no general foot traffic, there is no kind of a way of getting people naturally, so it's difficult to find new tenant as well, which is why I feel like this is too risky for me, and particularly as a first investor, I would not buy these kind of properties. So if these are the types of properties that I would not buy, what type of properties I generally buy? I would buy, depends on which sector it is. If it is a retail, I would buy a shop, but it's not a standalone on its own somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I would buy, let's say, a strip of shops, and one of the shop, yes, I can buy. I can buy an industrial building where, standalone industrial, in the front side is the office and in the back side is some logistics or something. Like particularly in these days, there is a lot of like Amazon delivery and all those things were happening. So logistics kind of business running, this kind of industrial building I would prefer to buy.